Charismatic School of Biblical History and Practical Knowledge. We are here in Houston. Our class dates and times should be right there on the poster and our school location. If you want to share class with one of your friends, families, or loved ones, it's a good thing to take a screenshot of this poster and just shoot them the poster, text it to them. You know, it's a good way to direct people to the school and let them know the class dates and times if you don't have a flyer on you. So we're here in Houston. We also have another school in Norfolk, Virginia, with Priest Kazakia. Their class dates and times are there on the poster. Another school out in Rochester, New York, with Priest Zionala, and their class dates and times are the same as as Rochester's, as Virginia's. And then we have another school out here in Texas, which is in San Antonio. Their class days and times are similar to ours, but they start 30 minutes later than us. So they start a little later than us, and they go a little later than us. And their info is there on the screen as well. We do have the Blog Talk Radio, another avenue of receiving the word. blogtalkradio.com/Mashaba. Very good teachings on there. We got other YouTube channels. The one you're on right now, 5 Minutes of Wisdom, Hidden Truth Bible Show, Israelite Media Corp. And then we also do the kids class. We do the kids class live every Sunday here in Houston at 2 p.m. So check that out. If you got young kids, subscribe to the kids channel and check them out, have them watch, or bring them through the school. Israelware, they are still accepting orders. If you want something customized, we got the Chosen Creation too. If you want something customized, right? If you want something like a necklace that says like the 10 Commandments on it, or that has like, the Our Father prayer, or they got the tribes, or if you want some armbands or some jewelry, Chosen Creation can definitely hook you up. You can. It's also if you want any custom garments on Israelware, check it out. Brothers are looking real fly, real royal out here with their bracelets and necklace and custom headbands and tunics and all of that. I gotta step my game up. Falling behind. We do have Hebrew Academy here in Houston every Tuesday, in Rochester every Monday, every Wednesday in VA. The upcoming feast, which is the memorial blowing of the trumpets, which can be found in Leviticus 23 and 24. That starts sundown the 26th of this month. Alright, and that is on a Monday. If you need to reach a priest or teacher, you can contact Priest Kazakia at 757-300-4047 or Priest Zelle at 303-557-8979. We have a business, sweet ambiance, keep you smelling good, and you're supporting the school at the same time, and you get a little something in return. All right. If you want to make any donations, you can drop that in the Wells Fargo account. We also accept Zelle.
Chosen Creations. Is that over there?
Yeah, I said that earlier.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
If you want to make any donations, you can put it in the Wells Fargo account. We accept Zelle, Cash App, Google Wallet. Whatever your chosen form of donating or giving, alms, we got you covered. We do need books. We're quite low on apocryphers, and we have been getting a good influx of new people coming through. So if you have it in your heart and you want to send some books to the school, we do need apocryphers and some good Bibles with a decent sized lettering, because everybody's eyesight is not 20/20 near. Yeah.
What is that vision?
Right? Yours is beyond 20/20. But you can hit up priest Quatazov, and he'll give you a good address where you can mail these items. Because we're not always here at the school, so if you just up and want to mail it to this school address, we might not be here to receive it. So please hit up priest Quatazov if you want to send anything, and he'll give you a good address.
Booyah!
Booyah.
That's not part of the announcement.
Oh. Okay.
Con.
Rehearsal practice.
We done with the announcements?
Yes, sir.
Right, so 10 minutes. All right, 10 minutes in. So last week we went over, we started these classes I wanted to go over these classes concerning the plagues of Egypt, the 10 plagues. And the first class we went over last week, just to intro everything, was really just showing the mind of the Most High towards his people, showing the mind of the Pharaoh, right? The pride, the things that Pharaoh was thinking towards the Most High and his people, as far as not recognizing the Most High and putting him as that ultimate God. And, why the Most High had to go about to deliver us from Egypt in such grandeur, right? When you look at the 10 plagues, when you look at those 10 plagues, they were harsh. They were harsh, but they fit the punishment. They fit the crime, right? That's all we got of that. So yeah, they fit the crime, but they were hard. The Most High, he didn't take it light on them. The first couple, it was like, okay, we got this. But then after a while, the Most High, he started to ramp up. He started to ramp up his chastisement of the Egyptians. And really, we know why, because Pharaoh was very prideful. And he didn't want to loose us from the captivity. Obviously, Egypt at that time, if you know anything about Egypt at that time, the beginning of the 18th dynasty, that was their best time ever in history. But why? Why was it their best time? Why was it the best time in Egyptian history?
They had Israelites captive.
Yeah, they had us captive. Just like any nation that has us captive, it's always the best time.
Yep.
Make America great again? Well, America's only been around because of us. We built it. Right? Egypt, we built it. And all these other societies that we've been captive in, they were great because they had the Most High's jewels, right? They had his heritage. Jacob and Laban. Why was Laban blessed? When he said it, I'm blessed because of you, Jacob. How did the Egyptians survive drought and hunger? The 7 years of drought. Well, wasn't it not Joseph? How did they get their cities and things constructed before that, before Joseph? Well, Abraham taught them how to store wheat, showed them mathematics, and these different things that kept their society, or even started off their society being prosperous. So, because we were the blessing to the Egyptians, they wasn't trying to let us go, man. And because they didn't believe in the one true power, the one true God, they definitely wasn't going to let us go on that behalf. Right? So, I want to get started. First of all, I wanted to show y'all these books that I've been in, so that way y'all can understand where we're reading from. So, real quick, Rosa,
Yes.
you're going to look up, just so you can grab a picture of it, look up the book. It's a book called Egyptian Mythology. Egyptian Mythology, Mythology. And it's going to say a guide to the goddesses and gods and goddesses and traditions of the ancient Egyptians. It looks like this. Right? So just so they can see where we're reading from. But look, I'll put it here, boom. Right? So that's one book that I use as a reference. This book was cheap, $20. $20. And what it does is it goes into all 1,500 plus gods of the Egyptians.
1,500.
Yeah, 1,500 plus gods of the Egyptians. It goes in. This is thick. This is all just. It goes in about how they're worshipped, how the mythology of that god came about. You know, how they look, how they worship them, all these different things, right? So the gods, goddesses, and traditions of ancient Egypt. So that's one book. Did you find it? Yep, that's it right there. So that's one. $20. $20 on Amazon. And you get all the Egyptian jargon you want. Right? So that's one. Now the next one you're gonna look up, I paid $40 for this one. The next one you're gonna look up is The Complete Gods and Goddesses of Ancient Egypt. And listen how it looks. The Complete Gods and Goddesses of Ancient Egypt. The complete, and look, boom. As she looks that up for y'all. Right? That way y'all can, and if y'all want the ISBN numbers to these books, y'all can hit me up. But they're fairly easy to find. Amazon, they come right up. $40. I paid $60 for both these books. Right? To get an understanding. And the reason why I have two references is to make sure that the information I was getting from one source lined up with another source. And then I also, I mean, the funny thing is you can Wikipedia all this stuff. And when you Wikipedia things these days, Wikipedia is not how it used to be where it was people just put in their opinion. When you Wikipedia, there has to be references. There has to be references, and a lot of times they'll reference the books they use, and then you could actually click the link and it'll pull up the books. You could actually read them right from Wikipedia. So I did a lot of that, a lot of reference checking to make sure that what I was going to bring out made sense and that more than one source confirmed the info. All right, so those are the two books that I used. And what I'm gonna do is let's hop right in. Right, let's hop right in and just let's get into it. So first and foremost, let's establish one thing about Egyptian religion. This book tells you that it's Egyptian mythology. It's a myth. Right? What do we know about myths? A myth can either what? Be real or not real, right? And a lot of times with a myth, you know, legend has it, rumor has it.
Yeah.
Myth tells us myths change over time, right? From ear to ear, mouth to mouth. The myth was one thing in the ancient days, and then it switches to another thing in this time, or through oral, you know, passing it down. The one thing about the Egyptians is, though, they wrote everything down on the walls. So all this mythology and the things that we're about to read, they're on their walls in Egypt for us to be able to read and understand, like, yo, these dudes was really on one. Right? They was really on a different level when it came to worshiping these 1,500 plus gods. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna just read real quick the introduction, even just to this book. I'm on page 6. I'm gonna read the introduction, The Complete Gods and Goddesses of Ancient Egypt, just to set the stage on where the Egyptians' mind frame was. The Egyptian mind frame was according to these gods. All right, so I'm gonna just start at the beginning. This is page 6, first paragraph. It says, the spiritual world created by the ancient Egyptians was a richly fascinating one, which remains unique in the history of human religion. I'm gonna jump down. It says, for although Egyptian religion was often shrouded in layers of myth and ritual, it nevertheless, premated the ancient civilization of the Nile and untimely shaped and sustained and directed Egyptian culture in most every imaginable way. So this is telling us that even though it was myth, Even though it was layers of myth and rituals, this is what the Egyptians preferred. They preferred this mythology, these weird rituals. They preferred to serve these gods over any god.
Oh, I got a definition for myth.
What you got?
So, definition for myth:
Right?
a popular belief or tradition that has grown up around something or someone.
Right. Now the thing with that is, just because it's popular don't mean it's true.
It goes on.
Right?
An unfounded
Ooh.
or false notion.
Oh gosh. Why are you doing this?
A person or thing having only an imaginary or verifiable existence.
Wow. An unverifiable existence. Because who's the only one that could verify this? It was the Egyptians. But even though they believed in it, didn't make it real. Right? I'm going to read on. Good definition. It said the Egyptians are more religious than any other people. Is thus a broad one, in composing literally hundreds of different gods and goddesses, temples seemingly without end, and a mythology that was surpassing in its richness and complexity. It says the number of deities worshipped by the ancient Egyptians was indeed staggering, and almost 1,500 gods and goddesses are known by name. Though fewer are known in detail, to the modern viewer, this panoply of seemingly countless deities, including animal, human, hybrid, and composite forms, with their key, it uses some big words, kaleidoscopic symbols and attributes often appear strange and confusing at best and quite unintelligible at worst. So basically, what is that saying? What is having 1,500 gods? How smart is that? And what is that going to do for you? Right? How is having 1,500 gods applicable? How can you even live life trying to worship and serve 1,500 masters, 1,500 different powers? A god for the wind, a god for the water, a god for the this, a god for that, a god for this. The eyesight god, the god of creation, the goddess of this, the goddess of that. So not only was it gods, it was goddesses. So just in their own book, they're saying that it's nonsense. But see, this is what a lot of our people fall into when they decide that they're Hotep, my G. When Kemet is their first choice, now you got to go research 1,500 deities. All the Most High is saying is worship him. Right? All the Most High is saying is, look, it's me. It's me. Pick me. But now you got to go sift through 1,500 different powers, so-called, 1,500 different idols, just to get some type of peace. What if you don't get to the God of peace in time and you got torment? What's going to happen? You going to die searching for that God of peace? The God that controls peace and serenity? Right? What if you don't get to that God in time? What happens? You just die without peace, without any type of reconcile? But that's what the Egyptians are how you believe. So I'm gonna dive in. Go to Exodus. Let's go to. Are there any questions before we start on the topic? Okay, so I want you to go to. So remember, this is the part 2 to the class that we did last week. So what you can write down on your page, you can write down plague 1. What was the first plague? I know Elijah knows. What was the first plague? No, you don't get to tell me. Because I already know you know. You like, yep. What's the first plague? What? Right. The Most High turns water into blood. And you think like, oh yes, Most High turned water into blood, but and he turned the rivers a different color, and why did he do that? I mean, let me ask y'all a question. Y'all ever wonder why the Most High attacked certain things in Egypt? Y'all ever wonder that? Like, Dad, why did he go after the water? Why did he go after the cattle? Why did he go after the earth? Why did he go after the sun? Why did he go after Pharaoh, the firstborn of all the people? Y'all ever wonder that? Well, remember, 1,500 gods. It wasn't that he just decided like, oh yeah, let me go after the water. Right? Let me just go after the water for no reason. Remember, the Most High always has a reason. He always has a reason for what he does, and just think about it. When the Most High is checking us, does he just go after any old thing? Like, I'm gonna check him with this, and it's not gonna mean something? Or does he always prove a point with what he goes and either takes from you or destroys? Usually it's what you put above him, right? Right. So when the Most High attacked and it wasn't just the water, because we read it, water into blood. It was something specific. So let's go to Exodus and go to 7 and 20. Exodus 7 and 20. Read that.
Look at Exodus chapter 7 and verse 20.
Go ahead.
And Moses and Aaron did so,
Right.
as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river.
Right. So if you want to get the context, if you don't know the context, you just got to go back and read. But they go to Pharaoh, hey, let our people, let the Most High's people go. He's like, I don't know your God. We went over that already. Right? So the Most High said, well, look, this is what you're going to do. You're going to smote the waters. So it said they went to the river. What river? What was the most prominent river in Egypt and still is today? The what?
The Nile.
The River Nile. Right? The River Nile runs from the Mediterranean Sea up top. Right? It goes, Goshen is up here like a little bowl that catches all that water with all those rivers, and they all bleed into the River Nile. And the River Nile goes from Egypt all the way down past Ethiopia, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a long river that just, it waters. Remember, Egypt is a desert. The Valley of Kings and Cairo, where they have all those pyramids, if you look that up, it's all desert. But that Nile River runs right, not through the middle of Egypt, but more off to the coastal side a little bit. So you got the coast, some land, and then you got the river that runs down, and then you got the rest of Egypt. So that was their source of water. That was their source of water, the River Nile. Go ahead.
In the sight of Pharaoh,
Right.
and in the sight of his servants.
Right. You're going to read to verse 25. Go ahead.
And all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood.
Right. So all the water in the River Nile was turned to blood. Go ahead.
And the fish that was in the river died.
Go ahead.
And the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river.
Right. Read.
And there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt.
So all the land of Egypt felt this. Go ahead.
And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, and Pharaoh's heart was hardened.
Right. What verse you at?
Verse 22.
Go ahead.
Neither did he hearken unto them.
So all the magicians were able to. Why was this guy's heart hardened, Pharaoh? Because he was like, wait a minute, my magicians can do this. Mm-hmm. I don't gotta serve you. When it says his heart was hardened, he got more prideful. Wait a minute, this ain't no God, because my magicians, my magic, can turn water into blood. But the problem was he couldn't change it back. See how pride will blind you? You couldn't change the water back. That was the problem. Go ahead.
Neither did he hearken unto them,
Right?
as the Lord had said.
Right?
And Pharaoh turned and went into his house. Neither did he set his heart to this also.
Right. He was like, man, whatever. We'll deal with this. I ain't worried about that. I ain't gonna trip on that. My mind ain't on that. Go ahead.
And all the Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink.
Read.
For they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days.
How many?
7 days
Right?
were fulfilled. After that, the Lord had smitten the river.
Yeah, man. So just imagine 7 days they dug about the riverbanks trying to get water. Right? What verse you at?
That was the end of the chapter.
That was in the chapter, right? And I believe in other chapters it tells you that all the vessels were turned into blood. So if you had a standing vessel of water and you like, oh well, I got me some water. I know my stuff is stored up. Guess what? Nope. That was blood also. You gonna get it for me?
I think it was some salt.
So no matter where they tried to run, the river and whatever water came from that river source was turned to blood. Now, what does the water represent? What does water represent in the eyes of the Most High? What's that?
Wisdom and life.
Right? Wisdom, life. Right? And what does water represent for us? Be the same things, right? Right. If it represents that to the Most High, it'll represent the same thing to us. We just following the leader of the Most High. Now, just like us, the water to the Egyptians represented life. But see, there was a problem. There was a problem with the Egyptians and a disconnect because they decided that because it represented life, that now we got to take it to a whole nother step, and we literally got to make a god for this river and worship this god.
No, it was just early up in the chapter. It's verse 19.
Oh, was it? Verse 19? Okay. Read that real quick. Read verse 19.
Book of Exodus, chapter 7 and verse 19. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod, and stretch out thy hand upon the waters of Egypt,
Right?
upon their streams, upon their rivers, and upon their ponds,
Go ahead.
and upon all their pools.
Right,
of
because
water.
they had bathing pools that they hung out in. They would bathe, they would have pools in their courtyards. Go ahead.
That they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt,
Go ahead.
both in the vessels of wood
Right?
and in vessels of stone.
Right. So that's what happened. Now go to Wisdom of Solomon. 15. It's a lot. Wisdom of Solomon 11 and verse 5.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 11, verse 5.
Right?
For by what things their enemies were punished, by the same they in their need were benefited.
Right. See that? So our enemies were punished. The same thing that the Most High used to punish them is what benefited us. Go ahead.
For instead of a fountain of a perpetual running river,
Right?
troubled with foul blood,
Right?
for a manifest reproof of that commandment.
Yeah, you see that? So instead of a river flowing with water, they got foul blood. Why? Because the river turned to blood and all the fish start to die off and stink. So just think about that. Maybe after a day, you might be able to stomach that. But who's going to want to drink any blood? And then when you got the animals dying inside of it, imagine, first of all, the smell of blood alone is terrible. But then you got dead carcass and dead fish and dead whatever else. Oh, my bad. Dead whatever else in the river. So the Most High, he wasn't playing, man. He was making sure, like, look, you ain't gonna be able to drink this. And if you do, you out your damn mind. But come on, let's be real. Did they try to drink it? Of course they did. What about the babies? What about? You better have some breast milk on deck.
I probably turned to milk to blood too.
Right,
It wouldn't
right.
just come straight from the source.
That's
No
terrible.
backwards.
That's disgusting. Right? But we know the Most High is about that drama. He's about the showmanship.
They had a forced fast.
Oh, basically.
Forced dry fast.
Yeah.
Come on
Yep.
now. It's like you don't even really want to eat if you can't wash it down with nothing.
Nope.
Your mouth just be getting dry and it's hard to swallow. Like, have you ever done a long dry fast? Like, you don't even got spit. Like, whatever foam starts to build up in your mouth, if you try to swallow that, it's like
That's cloudy. It's dry.
yeah.
Cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
That's what they
Cottonmouth.
went through. Most High was like, look, I wonder if they're like, oh, we're not tripping. Yeah, we have a God that celebrates the week of no water.
Well, they weren't tripping. You know why? Because if Pharaoh didn't lay it to heart,
The people
as a leader of the people as a leader is, so is the people.
God.
So the people were like, well, it's all good. We got this. Right? We're still panicking inside. We're still going to try to figure it out and dig wells around the river and dig wells here and there to get water. But think about it. Every time you dug a well, it just sprung up blood. That's disgusting.
We got it. And then you're digging this well, hoping for water. You're just wearing yourself out.
Yeah, in the middle of the desert. Thirsty.
Yeah, thirsty. More
Getting thirsty.
more deranged.
Speaking of Elijah, can I get one too?
Right? Yeah, see, we out here feeling parched, but we get to quench our thirst.
I want to feel like I'm in Egypt.
The Egyptians, wow, they couldn't quench their thirst. There was no Sprite. There was no water.
As Derek takes a sip of his water.
Right. I also.
Like so crisp.
Right?
What the Egyptians couldn't taste.
Twist of grapefruits. Right? So read on in Wisdom of Solomon.
For a manifest reproof of that commandment,
Right?
whereby the infants were slain.
The what?
The infants were slain.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. Babies die. Don't get it twisted. Go ahead, read on.
Thou gavest unto them abundance of water.
Right, he gave us unto them, us, Israel. So while their babies were dying off, oh, we ain't tripping on that. It's just the babies. We was drinking water. We was chilling. Go ahead.
By a means which they hope not for,
Read.
declaring by that thirst that how thou hadst punished their adversaries.
Yeah, you see that? They got punished by thirst. Dry lips, dry mouth. Like he said, digging wells. Think about it. You digging wells and getting more thirsty. You thinking like, oh yeah, this is it. And you can hear the rumblings. Oh yeah, and then, oh gosh. Just thick, goopy, bloop, 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 coagulating blood.
And then when they're about to hit water, they're praying to
their God.
Like, yeah, thank you, wherever God this is.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into it.
Boom.
We're gonna get into Shem. It's a Shem. We're gonna get into Shem, right? So y'all can see, bro. Yeah, they praying to this God, but think about it. No help.
You know what I'm also thinking about is how you said how the leader of the people are. So are his officers. So we had water. The Israelites had water. The Hebrews had water. But and I'm sure they had caught wind that we had water. But in their pride, which was the same kind of pride Pharaoh had,
They wasn't messing with us.
they wouldn't try to deal with this. They were going to humble themselves and say, hey, can we get a cup of water?
And even if they would have got it and walked that back down, guess what?
Turn the blood.
Turn the blood. They probably would have turned the blood right in the cup that they put it in.
God.
Because that was the punishment. The blessing, the same thing that blessed us, cursed them. Right? So go from there. Go to Psalms 78 and 43. So really, I'm just giving y'all the scriptures that go into the water again. Why do we go to these precepts? to show you that the Bible speaks of it more than once, the scriptures are going to back up the scriptures. Read on, 78 and 43 in Psalms.
Psalm chapter 78, verse 43.
And we're going to be jumping back to Psalms, this Psalms a lot, because this Psalms goes into the Egyptian plagues. So I'm just cherry picking these two verses. Go ahead.
How he had wrought his signs in Egypt,
Right,
and his wonders in the field of Zoan,
right,
and had turned their rivers into blood,
right.
and their floods.
And they're what?
Floods.
Very key point. And their floods. Go ahead.
That they could not drink.
Right. So the one thing you got to understand about the Nile River is that right before, at this time, right before springtime, remember we're dealing with a desert. But what would happen is, right before springtime, the river would overflood, and it would flood on. It would just flood it because it's getting filled up from the Mediterranean. That water is going downstream, and the water would overflood onto the banks. And so what would happen is it would saturate the ground to the point where, now that the ground is saturated, and it would bring the saturation, but it also mineralize the ground, salt and all these different things, salt, magnesium, potassium. It would mineralize the desert sand. And guess what they would go do? Guess what you're able to go do once it's mineralized and saturated?
Plant.
There it is. They would go and plant everything. Boom. So they literally had about 3 months of agriculture before the ground dried up. So just think about the mind of the Egyptians. Every year the water floods. The river floods over, saturates the ground, mineralizes the earth. You go plant. What you gonna do? Who you gonna get a credit to? If you're a heathen, who you gonna get a credit to? The river, right? You're gonna look at the river like, oh wow, the river is doing this.
The river god.
The river is our God, not the Most High that created it, but the river is doing it. Listen, every time it does this, every year on clockwork. So the blessing of the Lord is now the thing to be worshipped. The water is the blessing. The way it did its thing in Egypt when the rivers overflooded or overflowed, that's why it says, and their floods. Because the God that we're going to talk about is not really the God of the Nile, it's literally the God of the flood. Or the God of the flooding of the Nile. So it wasn't really the Nile that they worshipped. It was more the fact that it flooded, and to them it brought this abundance. Right? So I'm going to jump back into this book, the complete gods and goddesses of ancient Egypt. And you're going to write down. So you're going to write down Happy, H-A-P-I. This is, or H-A-P-Y, it just depends. It's spelled both ways. But literally, this is the God that they worshiped. Right? So we're gonna go into the mythology. So, you want to read this for me? Read that for me. The highlighted parts.
Under mythology.
Yeah, under mythology. So we're at page 106, Complete Gods and Goddesses of Ancient Egypt.
Come.
Happy. All you got to do, I looked up happy, and it's going to give us the mythology. So what this God stands for, the mythology behind it. And then there's the iconography, how it's worshipped, the icon. You know, when you say, I'm an icon, there's such thing as an iconography where people, how do they make a person an icon when they worship him? Right? How is he worshiped and represented? So read that for me.
Come. Was primarily identified
Right, okay.
was primarily identified by the Egyptians as the inundation of
Right.
the Nile.
Right, go ahead.
Jumping to the next highlight.
Uh-huh.
When it was often stated that Happy was purely this inundation rather than simply the Nile itself.
Right. So the inundation means Happy was the actual flooding and not the actual river. He was more looked at as the event and not the actual river itself. He was the flooding that happened every year around springtime. Go ahead.
There are some
Indications,
indications of overlap, so that it is sometimes possible to characterize the God as representing the divine power of the Nile in general.
Go ahead.
More usually, however, Happy is clearly the Nile flood of the inundation was called by the Egyptians the arrival of Happy.
Right. So every time it flooded over, they say, "Oh, Happy is here," or the arrival of Happy. Go ahead.
The Nile was both the primary source of life in ancient Egypt,
Right.
and by virtue of its
Cyclic.
cyclic rhythm, a manifestation of cosmic order, so that Happy is thus called creator God, or even father of the gods, due to his life-giving and creative ability.
You see that? So what are they looking at? Well, isn't it a thing that when it rains, April showers bring May flowers? Remember that saying? It's always a known thing that when it rains or wherever there's water and any type of earth, something can spring up from that. But just think about the mind you had to be in to now accredit that to just a God and not the Most High. So what was the Most High showing the Egyptians in turning the water into blood? What did he want? What did he want? What did he want from the Egyptians? What?
To, I guess, humble down and break that mentality.
Yeah. But what he wanted was exactly what they did. He wanted them to pray to their God, dig their wells, Happy, where are you? And the water still stayed blood. To show them that, wait a minute, you worshiping what you not know not. You worship what you know not. You're worshiping this God that can't save you, but that's why he said it. Where are your gods? Let them come save you. Right? He was showing that I'm going to be the God of the Hebrews. Even though I'm the God of this world and I control everything, I'm going to be there for these people while y'all are praying to these deities and idols that can't change the water back into a drinkable estate. If this God represents life, why is he allowing you to die? Why is he allowing your babies to die of thirst? Think about that. Ain't that a cold, harsh reality?
Yeah.
Okay, you got 7 days for this God to change the water back. Did he ever do it? Nah. Pharaoh had to beg Moses. Moses, please. Petition for the Most High to, you know what I'm saying? For your God to change the water back. I'll let you go. But how cold of a reality check is it when you put all this stock into this God, all this belief and mythology and iconology, and the very thing that it's supposed to control, it don't control. Eee. That's a harsh hit. But see, they were so embedded in this belief of Happy that he had to go right for the jugular. Every plague was a jugular hit. Right to the throat. Right? So now we're going to go to the iconography of this same God, and you're just going to jump to the next page. And really what it's going to tell you is what they're represented as, what they look like, their characteristics. Right? Was it an animal deity, a woman deity, a half-breed? Remember, it talks about, it said they had women, men, animals, and hybrids. So what was this God represented as? Go ahead.
Representations.
And you could put that, Rosa, you could put that picture up, the first one that I sent you of the blue person. Yeah, put that up so they can see. Go ahead. And you can Google this stuff. You can Google this on your own. But go ahead.
representations of Happy usually show the god as a swollen-bellied man.
So a swollen belly, pot belly man, gluttonous, glutton. Go ahead.
Wearing an abbreviated belt or loincloth.
Right, got his little loins clothed over, but half butt naked. Right, go ahead.
And with long hair and pendulous.
Yeah, pendulous, meaning
Saggy?
saggy. Yes. Saggy what?
Female breasts.
Oh, what? Huh? Wait. I thought this was a
Man.
man's. Nah. He got a bare belly of a man and woman breasts. Saggy female breasts. Think about that.
National Geographic breasts.
So what? Wow. The guys must be crazy breasts.
God.
But just think about it, man. Why would you want to worship that? First of all, what is it? It's represented as a man/woman. Man traits, man character with woman traits and woman character. What?
Were they like the first people to like invent transvestites and stuff?
Were they the first people to invent it?
Yeah.
Well,
that
when
sounds
you-
like one.
Well, when you look at their gods that they worship, it's easy to say, yeah. It's easy to say, yeah, that's what they were on. They were the ones they were on the animal/man, the man/woman, the woman anthropomorphized into a man. They were on that. Oh yeah, we're gonna get into it. Go ahead, read on. And you see she got the photo up there that I gave her, and this is not even a true depiction. It's a little drawing. I don't think the breasts are big enough or the stomach fat enough. But there's many photos you can Google. Let's see.
Thousands of the highlight.
Let me see something. Yeah, I mean, even in their little on the wall, and it's got some real good photos in it too. I didn't want to take them with the phone and throw them up, but these were some good photos that are from the walls of Kemet. The Wallses. You see that? Right, it says most often he's shown with blue skin, although other colors are occasionally found. All of these attributes represented the fertility Happy supplied, and such were interchangeable with those of other so-called figures. You see that? So this began in the fifth dynasty. Fifth dynasty. Early Egyptian. So now I'm going to jump. Right. Now I'm going to jump over. I'm going to just read this real quick. It says, as a result of his nature, Happy was called Lord of the Fishes and Birds. And numerous crocodile gods and frog goddesses were his assistants. I want y'all to keep that in mind. Frog goddesses were his assistants. Right? Now we're going to jump into this other book real quick. The Egyptian mythology. And you know, I ain't gonna lie, man, putting this together, it was fun. It was fun to read about this stuff and really just get a good chuckle. Right? And this, you know, you can read the highlights. You can read the highlights, the pink highlights, and that right there. And it's basically just gonna back up the same thoughts. Right? So pardon me if it gets a little bit redundant, but again, sources. Go ahead.
Happy was usually depicted as a very fat man with pendulous breasts
Right. Long breasts, women breasts. Go ahead.
and blue or green skin. Through Egypt, though Egypt was totally dependent on the annual Nile flood, the inundation
The inundation or the flooding.
god was not a high-ranking deity. Jumping to the next highlight. The powers of the flood to irrigate and fertilize the Nile Valley were represented by Happy. For this reason, Happy was called a fecunding.
Let me see. has been called a Fucking deity figure.
Future deity,
I didn't look that word up. Let's see. Go ahead.
rather than a Nile god.
Oh, basically saying the same thing. Instead of being the Nile god, he was the god of the flood, the flooding part of the Nile.
Come. The next highlight.
Right.
Happy is called Lord of Fishes.
Mm-hmm.
The one who greens the two banks and the marker of barley and wheat.
Right, because once he floods the banks, then they could go and plant their barley and wheat. Go ahead.
Happy's life-giving waters were also credited with a role in reviving the murdered god, Osiris,
Osiris, right.
who came back each year with the barley.
Right. So we're going to get into Osiris also. But you see how they try to intermingle all these different gods? So Happy is credited with bringing back Osiris, who represents the barley. Osiris was a god that was killed, supposedly, right? But he's bringing them back yearly. What sense does that make? See, when we go in, we're gonna see like none of this stuff makes sense. But the Most High had to challenge it, not just for the Egyptians' sake, but really for whose sake? Yeah, because we were watching them worship these deities.
Yeah.
We were watching them have 1,500 gods, and they were blessed. Just like here in America, right? They got no God and they're blessed. And you like, damn, I want to have no God too. I want to live just like the Americans. But what does the Most High always have to constantly remind us? That, wait a minute, ooh, it's the wicked that prosper. Right? The foolish say there is no God. Better watch yourself, watch your step. He constantly reminds us through our everyday, right? All the trials, all the tribulations that he walks us up to and then brings us through. That's him reminding us that I'm with you. But when we ain't with him, what happens? Trials, tribulations hit, and then it gets even worse. Sin upon sin, pain upon pain, hit upon hit, with no relief in sight. What's that?
That's like most of the rappers that think they're most good and never get credit or anything. They die. Like, he
Yeah.
was just murdered.
Yeah, I did this. I made me. I'm the man. I can roll through the streets like a like a child, right, with no care in the world until somebody run up,
And he got over chains.
and then you screaming, "Oh God!" But where was the Most High in your life when you was on the come up, when you was flossing? But that's all of us, man. Go to Psalms 105 and 23. Psalms 105 and verse 23. Again, I'm going to be in the Psalms. I'm going to be in the Psalms 105 and the Psalm 78, so you might just want to kind of hold a place. Go ahead, Psalms 105 and 23.
Psalms chapter 105 and verse 23.
Right?
Israel also came into Egypt,
Uh-huh.
and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham,
Go ahead.
and he increased his people greatly.
Right, because that's what happened. We came into the land of Ham, dwelt with the Egyptians, and the Most High increased us in number. Go ahead.
And made them stronger than their enemies.
Right, and the Egyptians knew this. That's why I said let us deal wisely with them so that they don't team up with our enemies and now we get ran out of our own land. So what did? They threw us in captivity. They made us their bondmen. Go ahead.
He turned their heart to hate his people,
Right?
to deal subtly with his servants.
Right, because that's what it says in Exodus 1. Let us deal subtly with them. Read on. At least they team up with the people that the Egyptians, if you understand what was going on at that time, the Egyptians had ran out the Hyksos out that land, and the Nubians. Excuse me. It was the Nubians. You had Egypt, you had the Nubians under Egypt. That's who Egypt was fighting wars with, the Nubians, over the gold and the resource in the region. The Egyptians finally defeat them. They're looking at us up in Goshen like, wait a minute, we just fought these cats in the south. Now we got these cats in the north getting these numbers. We can't run them out because then they both going to team up. and come back. So let's subdue them. We'll keep them in the land, but we'll just make them slaves till they be destroyed. Go ahead.
He sent Moses, his servant,
Right?
and Aaron, whom he had chosen.
Read on.
They showed his signs among them, and wonders in the land of Ham.
Jump down to verse 29.
He turned their waters into blood,
Right?
and slew their fish.
Go ahead.
Their land brought forth frogs in abundance.
Right. They did what?
Their land brought forth frogs in abundance.
Right. And really, that's the next plague we're going to talk about. So one plague leads into another. He slew their fish, slew their children, because nobody can just sit there and live off of blood. But then he brings frogs into the land. So because you want to rely on the river as your life source and not me, I'm going to take away your source of life, your source of being. So that's check one, the river turned the blood. Go from there, go to Isaiah 44:1.
Isaiah chapter 44, verse 1. Yet now, hear, O Jacob, my servant,
Right?
and Israel, whom I have chosen.
Right?
Thus saith the Most High, that made thee and formed thee from the womb,
Right?
which will help thee.
I want y'all to remember this. He said he formed us from the womb. I will help thee. Go ahead.
Fear not, O Jacob, my servant,
Read on.
and thou, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen.
Right. Jeshurun, the upright one. Right? When you read in Deuteronomy 32, he said, Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxen fat and are overgrown with thickness. Jeshurun, the upright one, that was a representation of Israel. That was Israel that he was talking to. We were the upright one. Go ahead.
For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty.
And that's what he did. He gave us the water. But he didn't take care of the Egyptians like that. They died of thirst. Go ahead.
And floods upon the dry
You
ground.
see that? Why am I going here? Because to show that the Most High controls the flood. It ain't the Nile. It ain't happy. The Most High makes it flood for that region to be able to have some type of growth and prosperity. He does that. He controls that. Go ahead.
I will pour my spirit upon thy seed.
See, without the Most High's spirit, it don't matter if it got water or not. It ain't going to germinate and grow. Just like a person, because when you look at this, it's going in twofold. The seed of the ground, but also a man as a seed. If the Most High's spirit ain't with you, you can water all damn day. Right? You can plant and water all day, but if his spirit ain't with you, there's no growth. There's no increase. Go ahead.
And my blessing upon thy offspring.
Right, but he said, he that despiseth wisdom and nurture, what does it say? It said his labors are vain, his works unprofitable, his children, his wife wicked. Right? That's Wisdom of Solomon 3. Go ahead, read on.
And they shall spring up as among the grass.
Read on.
As willows by the water courses.
Go ahead.
One shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself.
Because that was the point. The Most High wanted us to be blessed and say, damn, I'm the Lord's. But read it again.
One shall say, I am the Lord.
I am Happy's.
I am the Lord.
I'm Katet's.
I am the Most High.
No, I'm Osiris's.
I am the Most High.
No, I'm Isis.
I am the Most High.
Go ahead.
And another shall call himself by the name of Jacob.
By the name of the Pharaoh?
By the name of Jacob.
Yeah, see, this is what the Most High intended. When he gave us these wonderful blessings like the rivers and the waters and the sea, he didn't want us to look at the creation and serve it like we read in Romans 1, right? It said to serve the creature more than the creator. He wanted us to look at the creation and give the credit to him. But he said, vain are all men by nature. Right, because we'll look at the creation and be like, damn, that's so dope. But we won't give credit to the workmaster that created it. And think that think about a painting. You look at a painting, you're like, man, that painting is incredible. But isn't the hands that painted it and the mind that conceptualized it, isn't that mind more incredible?
Yeah.
But we don't look at it like that, right? We look at the painting. The Basquiat, the Picasso, right? And we like, nah, that the Mona Lisa.
16th chapter.
The 16, yeah, the Michelangelos, and then, but what about the man that did it, that created it? What about the power, the Most High, Yahweh Shai, the angels that bear us up, that keep us safe? That's what the Most High wanted us to look at. That's why he had to go so hard into this Egyptian mythology. Read on.
And another shall subscribe with his hand
Right,
unto the Most High,
right,
and surname himself by the name of Yasharallah.
right. This is what the Most High intended, that we was going to be called by his name. Not that we wasn't supposed to look at Pharaoh or any one of these 1,500 gods talking about Hotep. Hotep, my G. The woman, the black woman is God, and all this other crazy nonsense.
Getting a long braid on the side of your head.
Right.
The rest is bald.
I forget what they call that. Right? Or all the other things that the Egyptian mythology has to offer. Y'all see this? So, let's go into it. You're going to write down plague number 2. And we know what it is, frogs. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 8. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 8. And you're going to read verse 5. What we're talking about. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 8, verse 5.
Right?
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying unto Aaron,
Right?
stretch forth thy hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds.
So after the Most High done cured the waters, turned them back regular, go ahead. And then Moses goes to Pharaoh. Hey, you ready? You gonna let us go? Nah, I'm good. Y'all could chill a little bit longer. Most High says what? Okay, stretch your hands over the streams, the ponds, the rivers. Go ahead.
And cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And the magicians did so with their enchantment.
Right, so the magicians were able to replicate with their enchantments, the frogs. So, even that was retarded. We got all these frogs, let's do more frogs. Think about the mind state.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if this is the God, or can we do this? Oh, we can do it. So now you just added a bunch more frogs to your thing. You added a bunch more bloody water. It just goes to show you the mind, the pride, man. The prideful mind. You do more damage to yourself than anything. Trying to dispel what's real and what's true. Read on.
And brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt.
Right, you're going to go to verse 14.
Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron,
Right.
and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go.
Right, yeah, ask them, I'm tired of these frogs, man. We thought they're loud, they're slimy, and they smell. Read.
That they may do sacrifice unto the Lord.
Right.
And Moses said unto Pharaoh, glory over me, when shall I entreat for thee, and for thy servants, and for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee and thy house, that they may remain in the river only. Verse 10, and he said, tomorrow, and he said, Be it according to thy word.
Right, so Moses asked him, when shall I go to the Most High and ask? Do it tomorrow. I'll be ready to let y'all go by then. Okay, it's according to your words. Your word is your bond. Go ahead.
That thou mayest know that there is none like unto the Lord thy God, our God.
Right? See how Moses was playing it? Moses was trying to give Pharaoh every sign. So when you want it done? Tomorrow? Oh, okay, we'll do it tomorrow. That way, there ain't no coincidence. That way, Pharaoh couldn't fix his mind and say, oh, that was a coincidence. The frogs was going to die off anyway. Right? So Moses said, you pick a time. You pick a time, Salakia. You pick a time and it'll be done at that time. To your convenience, so you know. This ain't a game. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and from thy houses, and from thy servants, and from thy people. They shall remain in the river only.
Right?
And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses. And the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank.
Yeah, you see that? Imagine dead heaps of frogs just sitting back and decaying and dying. So even when the Most High killed the frogs off, you still got to deal with now the filth and the infestation. What's that?
So I looked up. Another thing about frogs is that they have bacteria.
Okay.
Bacteria leads to salmonella.
Mm-hmm. And they have that when they're alive.
Right. So when they're alive and it was all over people, you can get it by just direct contact.
Right.
So
Very disgusting.
And symptoms will be diarrhea,
Ooh.
fever,
Ugh.
and stomach cramp.
Ugh. Oh, salmonella. Yeah. It's like eating bad food.
Right.
You eat that, yeah. Diarrhea, fever, stomach cramp, vomiting, nausea.
Extreme sickness.
Yeah, so imagine you got frogs that stink and then you stink because you just pooing yourself. You trying to shovel up those dead frogs and the smell. And you know, the one thing about the Egyptians, they were big on their cleanliness. That's why they shaved off all the hair. That's why they wore their little white robes and did all that, and the fake, no hair, fake beards. Why? Because they were always trying to prevent lice and different pestilence. So imagine you got dead frogs all through the house. You got the remnant of bloody river water all through the land, and then now the Most High sends frogs. Then they die off, and then you left with holding the bag. You left with the cleanup. Heaps upon heaps in the land. So imagine, just think about it. They were in the fields, they were in the houses, they were all through the land. When they start dying off in the land, like in the fields, you wouldn't want to go and plant anything. You wouldn't want to go harvest. That land was rendered useless because you got death and moisture and bacteria seeping in to that land. So their agriculture was destroyed. Before the other plagues came, you probably wouldn't want to have eaten that food. But guess what? No choice.
This made me think about, I remember I used to go to like LA or the Bay to visit my aunt, and me and my mom, we'd always get in at nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, her apartment complex would always have a gang of frogs.
Oh.
Like a gang of them.
But it's like here, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But more.
Well, yeah, probably closer to the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come about the waters.
Yeah, and so like we'll be walking, and like if you've never stepped on a frog before, you're blessed.
Because you hear that squish?
Yeah, it's like,
ugh,
it's
you know
like
it's a frog.
soft and gushy, and it's squishing out, like you're squishing
Yeah.
its guts out when you step on it. It's like,
And
and
you
they're
hear like
all
a little-
over, and
you
these
hear like a-
frogs,
You hear a little croak.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah.
They'll jump right in your step. They'll jump right on you. They don't care.
No, it's just like at my house when I hop out the car. If I walk through the grass, I got to be careful. Because then you'll just see little hoppers. Like Ivy, she hates coming home at night.
Yeah.
Because the frogs just there. I got a lot of frogs because I have that bayou
Oh yeah, right behind you.
right behind me. So, bro, first of all, one day I went to my front door and there was a turtle this big.
No way.
Yes way. A turtle this big. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Somebody's playing a trick on me. Bro, this big at my front door. He came up from the bayou and probably crawled around the back and just trying to get some shade. He had like a little mud on his
Shell.
shells. Yeah, he just crawled up and just slid under the gate real slow and just kicked it. But that's where they at. They in that water.
Yep.
Right? So let's deal with it. Let's deal with this God, this frog God. And you can put up that other photo, that second photo I sent you. You're gonna write down Heket, Heket. So this was a frog goddess. Can anybody think what the frogs represented to the Egyptians? Remember, it was an abundance of frogs. Now remember, the Most High don't do things that are just weird. There's a practical way that things happen. What were these frogs doing through the course of time? They came from the water. How did they get there? It's practical. What? Well, yes, partly. Right? The flood of the Nile pushes that water into the banks, and it's going to push animals out. But think about it. Practically, how would they have gotten there? Oh, like even now, let's say you had a numerable amount of frogs. What were they doing? They were doing what?
Multiplying.
Right. They were reproducing. So what does the frogs represent to the Egyptians? The gods of what?
Fertility.
The god of what?
I was thinking prosperity.
Fertility. The god of fertility.
How do you spell her name again?
Heket. Oh no. That's it right here. Look. She got it up there.
Yeah, I know. This
Literally.
is the depiction.
Right. She got her looking like a real person. But this god was a woman with a frog's head. That's how they depicted her. I mean, come on. Right? So we're going to get into it. So let's get back into our... Yep. Oh, they're trying to make her look sexy like She-Hulk. That ain't dope. Right? So let's get into it. Let's get back into... We're going to go to page 229 of the Complete Gods and Goddesses real quick. I'm going to have them read 229. Where we at? All the way back there. Right. You're gonna hit mythology. Now remember, I went to that Isaiah. Go back to that Isaiah real quick. And I want you to read Isaiah. I want you to read 44 and verse 2. Isaiah 44 and verse 2 real quick.
Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 2.
Go ahead.
Thus saith the Most High.
Go ahead.
That made me
Right.
and formed thee from the womb,
Read.
which will help thee.
Right. The Most High that formed us in the womb, He will help us. Read where you at.
Mythology. The the frog goddesses who assisted in fashioning the child in the womb and who presided over its birth.
See that? So this is what the Egyptians believed, that this deity, this idol, was in charge of fashioning them in the womb. Go ahead.
Heket is first attested in the pyramid text.
Right,
where
because you have different texts that the Egyptians, different walls and writing. You have the pyramid text, coffin text, you have different texts in different places that they read and they try to decode that ancient civilization. Go ahead.
where she assists the deceased king in his journey to the sky. Her connection with birth is first apparent in the Middle Kingdom story preserved in the
Westcar Papyrus.
However, in which the goddess hastened the birth of the three kings who
Integrated.
integrated the fifth dynasty.
Right. So I'm going to read this real quick. It says, to the Egyptians, the frog was the symbol of life and fertility. So what would happen is millions of frogs would be born after the annual flood, which makes sense, right? Because frogs live in water, they reproduce. When the water spills over, it's going to throw a bunch of tadpoles or little froglets. Where they go from amoeba to tadpoles to frogs. It's going to throw them up on the riverbanks. And now you're going to have this crazy amount of frogs. That was literally the life cycle in Egypt. It always happened, but all the Most High was doing was reenacting these things in a shorter time span. And saying, okay, if this God controls your life and birthed you, then let's see if she can clear out these frogs for you, these dead frogs. See, all of it was a challenge to the psyche of the Egyptians. And again, the signs and the wonders. Remember he said it, he delivered us by great signs and wonders. Again, don't you ever wonder, damn, why did he send frogs? Well, he sent frogs because the frog god was the homegirl to the Nile god. It said it. She was his assistant. Remember? It said that the frog goddess was the assistant to the first god. So he's like, okay, well, he couldn't save himself. Let's see if the assistant can come through and help him out. Right? Where you at? Oh, I'll finish reading this. It says, which brought forth fertility to the otherwise barren lands. Consequently, in Egyptian mythology, there began to be frog goddesses who represented fertility named Hequet. And you can spell her name, it's H-E-K-E-T or H-E-Q-E-T. Hequet. Hequet or Heket. Where you at?
That was it, the highlight.
Right?
Oh, this other highlight.
Yeah.
Heket was represented as a frog or as a woman with a frog's head, while temple representations tend to utilize the primarily anthropomorphic form. Amulets of the goddess are usually zoomorphic.
Zoomorphic animals. Y'all see that? So usually she's the animal head with the woman body. So this is what the Egyptians was worshiping. Now, think about it. Didn't the Most High say not to worship beasts and all these different things? Why did they get off on worshiping a woman with a frog head and a woman body? Right? Let's go here. We're going to go into Egyptian mythology, page 139.
Heket was a frog goddess who helped women to give birth and the dead to be reborn. The knife-wielding frogs.
So check this out. What happened when the river dried up and turned into blood? What happened? People died, right? Well, okay. Here goes your goddess. Have her rejuvenate them and bring them back to life. Bro, the Most High was playing games. It's like, oh, okay, y'all got Heket. Listen, she's gonna bring them back to life. She's gonna resurrect them. That's cold. Remember, the Egyptians believed this stuff. They didn't have to read a book to understand what they believed in. We're reading it like, damn, But they already had it sold and sealed in their mind that Heket was the goddess of life and fertility. Right?
Yeah.
So let them bring you back to life. Oh, couldn't do it. I sent all these frogs out there, and none of your children came back to life. None of the people that died from the first plague came back to life. What's going on? Shouldn't there be some doubt? Shouldn't you start to doubt your gods and your beliefs? I would. I would. If the Most High stopped working for me, I'd start to doubt. Because what do you need to see? You got to see the actions. Right?
Yes, sir.
But the problem with the Egyptians is they didn't start doubting. They started to dig deeper and dive in harder and claw in and double down. Oh, we doubling down. Pharaoh, double down.
Oh yeah, you ain't hit all the gods yet.
Yeah, you ain't going to hit all 1,500. Well, no, I'm going to hit your top 10. I'm gonna hit your top 10. I got 10 commandments. You got 10 gods. We're going to go in. Right? Where you at?
The knife-wielding frogs shown on ivory wands are probably Heket in her role as defender of women and
Ooh.
children.
See that? But he said that when we read in Wisdom of Solomon, it said their children died of thirst. So who was defending them? Right? Oh, we didn't give my God a chance. Oh, no, well, look, we're going to send her out there. You're up. Right? You're up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go ahead.
She was on vacation at that
Yeah,
time.
she was asleep. Where's your guys? Are they sleeping?
God.
They need to rest? They need to
Cry
get
louder.
right? Yeah, cry. Go ahead.
Heket, mistress of joy, was among the followers of the inundation god Happy when he brought new life to Egypt each year.
See that? So Heket was one of the followers of Happy. So all the Most High was doing was going down the line. He knocked the head off, then he went down to the minions. Go ahead.
The Roman writer, how do you say that? Pliny the Elder noted an Egyptian belief that frogs were spontaneously generated from the mud left by the receding Nile flood.
Think about that. They basically believed that frogs just popped out of nowhere.
Wow.
They just spontaneously generated. No. What happened was, if you understand frogs, they mate, the little tadpoles do their thing. If you have mud in a little cluster of water, that's all it needs for a tadpole to live in. A little pond of water. That's it. It'll sit there and live and eat all types of bacteria and little things on the surface, and it'll just grow till it grows its legs. Then it'll pop out the water and boom. That was the life cycle of a frog. But they were so foolish. They're like, oh, frogs just came out of nowhere. And it's Heket that did it. No, dummy. If you had wisdom, you would know. Right? If you were on Adam's level, you would know. If you were on Solomon's level, look at the ant, right? You think Solomon didn't know about frogs? He studied ants. He studied all the animals. You think Adam didn't know about all the animals' life cycles? He named the frog. He named the animals. He was able to see their life cycles and how they came about. But these dumb Egyptians, they're like, oh yeah, that just appeared out of nowhere. Come on, man. But how naive and foolish do you have to be to believe that? Go ahead, read on.
Heket came to be worshipped as a goddess of the primeval slime who gave birth to the sun god.
Now we're going into some deep waters. Because now she gave birth to Ra. I believe Ra is the sun god. Go ahead.
The next highlight. Heket was reserved for helping Isis bring Horus into the world and for assisting the murdered god Osiris to be reborn.
And when we get into these other plagues, we'll talk about Isis, Osiris, Set. We'll talk about them because that's a whole confusion of story. And when you get into that, there's a lot of incest and weird things happening there. But Isis and what is it, Osiris?
Osiris.
That was her husband that got killed. He got chopped into a few pieces. They're crediting Heket as the one that helped her to birth her son. Who was that, Horus? See, even I'm confused now.
Heket was reserved for helping
Right?
Isis bring Horus into the world.
Right. So Horus was Isis' son. You see that? So she's credited with birthing this god. Go ahead.
And for assisting the murdered god Osiris to be reborn.
Which was her husband. So think about it. If this god is powerful enough to rejuvenate a dead god and bring another god to life, she should be able to assist y'all minions in rejuvenating your dead babies and bringing more babies to life.
Oh, yep, this is the next part.
Oh, go ahead.
All Egyptians hoped that after they died, Heket would act as a divine midwife at their birth.
Because what were they believing? That they obviously believed in the reincarnation, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right? They thought that this woman, goddess, had control of their spirit to bring them back into the flesh. Well, we know, you read Ecclesiastes 12, it says what? You die, flesh goes to the ground, spirit goes to the Most High. You read in Psalms, it said he sent us forth our spirit to renew the earth. The Most High does, not Heket. Was that it?
Come.
Go to Deuteronomy. So you can write down the giver of life. Let's deal with who really gives life. And there's not a lot of scriptures. We're gonna hit these points and then we'll save the next class for the next two gods. Try to knock down two at a time. Cause it's not that much info to go into. And it's real plain, so these classes ain't gonna be super long. Go ahead. So go to Deuteronomy 32, 39.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 39.
Right?
See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me.
Right. And see, this is what he had to remind us and the Egyptians. Ain't no God with me. If so, go get your gods. You know what? I'll bring your gods to you. The Most High was cold, bruh. Most High said, I'm gonna drag your gods out and let them bid for you. I'm gonna drag these cats out by their collar. You know, you got stage fright, and you getting pushed out. I'm gonna push them out there to see what's up. But ain't no God with me. Those are idols. Go ahead.
I killed.
I what?
I killed.
Yeah, I killed y'all's babies of thirst, of bloody water. I did that. Go ahead.
And I make alive.
I have the power to make them alive again, not Heket, not happy. Go ahead.
I wound.
Read.
And I heal.
Right?
Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand.
Yeah, man. And again, this was the reminder. Go from there. Go to Acts 17:24.
Acts chapter 17, verse 24.
Right?
God that made the world
Right?
and all things therein.
Happy made the world because he abundantly flooded all over the place.
God that made the world
Right?
and all things therein.
The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Go ahead.
Seeing that he is Lord of heaven
Right?
and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands,
Right?
neither is worship with man's hand,
Go ahead.
as though he needed anything,
Go ahead.
seeing he giveth to all life.
Like some people life.
All life.
He shared that burden with the other gods.
He giveth to all life
Go ahead.
and breath
Read.
and all things.
You see that? So the Most High, if we needed a reminder, he gives to all life. Let's go to 2nd Esdras 8. 2nd Esdras 8:58.
2nd Esdras chapter 8, verse 58.
Let them get it. That boy turned up over there. That boy quick. That boy's sword is sharp and glittering. Right? And he had a long day today. If you only knew his day. You only knew the truck name. Oof. Man. God.
Con.
That's how it gotta be. Whatsoever is brought upon you, take it cheerfully. Read that.
2 Esdras chapter 8, verse 58. And said in their heart that there is no God.
Right. See, this what the Egyptians were on. This is what Pharaoh was on, leading that charge. There is no God. I don't know no God. But I know the other 15. I don't know yours, but I know the other 1,500 plus. I know what I'm worshiping. I know what I'm bowing down to. I think. Go ahead.
Yea, and that knowing they must die.
Go ahead.
For as the things aforesaid shall receive you.
Go ahead.
So thirst and pain.
He said what?
So thirst and pain.
How did the Egyptians die?
Thirst and pain.
Read on.
Are prepared for them.
Yeah, but they thought that Heket was going to come up and revive and relieve that pain. Read.
For it was not his will that man should come to naught.
You see that? Go ahead.
But they, which be created, have defiled the name of him.
You see that? They that been created. Remember, the Egyptians were created just like all men. Right? Now, obviously, they weren't there in the beginning because there were no separation of nations in that way, but we know they came from Ham. Go ahead.
Defiled the name of him.
And did not Noah teach his sons? Well, of course. The whole time he was building that ark, who was sitting right by him?
His sons.
His sons. Like any good father would have it. Nah, son, you're going to hear this word. Nah, son, you're going to listen to this. But we know about Ham. That nigga was rebellious and filthy, right? Going up in Noah's tent, seeing his nakedness, laughing. Right? And then going telling his brothers. No decency in Ham. But that's why he said Canaan will be a servant. But look at the offspring of Ham. They deviated into a whole nother lifestyle. Right? They deviated to a whole other life. But Moses taught his sons, man. You think he was doing on that boat? That whole time. You think he wasn't like, look, the Most High. Look how the Most High got us. He got us with food, water, shelter. Praise the Most High. Look, he destroyed the whole earth. You think they didn't look out that boat? Like, damn. As grown men. Said Ham was born 96 years before the flood, bless you. As grown men, they were able to see the majesty and the works of the Lord. Remember, don't let gods of Egypt and all that crap and Noah's Ark fool you. Ham, Shem, Japheth, they weren't 5 years old. They weren't little babies in bassinets, not seeing what was going on and oblivious. They were grown men with wives. 8 people were saved in the flood. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. So they weren't little boys with wives, man. What's that?
You know something else you see? If a body is submerged in the ocean, it floats to the top.
Right.
So you're going to, and when the storm stopped and they were just cruising.
A lot of floaties.
A lot of floaties, a lot of loaded bodies coming up.
Yeah.
They go back down though.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
That's why when they kill a person, throw them in the river.
Mm-hmm.
They got to put cement shoes on them. They got to tie them down with bricks and rocks. They don't.
They come back up.
They come up. That body fills up. That cavity bloats up with air and water, just like a balloon, and it floats to the top.
The gases in the body.
Yeah. Maybe after a long period of disintegration, it might, but it floats up after a while. But just think about it. It wasn't that long, right? Where the ark was settling, the water is receding, and you can only imagine what was floating. It wasn't just people, it was dead animals.
Yes.
All the animals that couldn't live in water died. So think about it. Think about the things they were able to see. Like, damn, that could have been us. There go grandmama. There go grandpa.
Yeah, the aftermath
There you go.
must have been crazy.
Oh yeah, come on, man. The bones and, bro, think about it. It was definitely crazy.
Is that why Noah got faded afterwards?
I would have too. Just getting off that boat, I'd have been like, bro, man, the Most High gotta celebrate up in here, Right? And you know them grapes was, whew, choice grapes, man. You know, saved him some grape seeds. Said he became a husbandman. Right? But don't get it twisted. Ham was one of those men that were created to serve the Most High through Noah. Right? But what did they do? Read verse 60 again.
But they, which be created,
Right?
have defiled the name of him
Right.
that made them,
Right?
and were unthankful unto him.
And how did they thank the Most High? Well, we're going to put you on the back burner, Lord, and serve other gods and other deities. We're not going to give you the credit. We're going to credit the fish-headed woman with the frog-headed woman with breasts, and the blue guy with long breasts and a beer belly. Right? Go to 2 Maccabees 7. 7:22. And again, all I'm going in is about scriptures about the Most High giving that life. And you go into the story of the 2 Maccabees, this was the woman with the 7 sons that were all put to death. But there was something really key that she said while she was exalting her. It said she exhorted her sons in her language, right? Because what was going on? Well, you're going to eat this pork and bow down to the king. No, you're not. You're going to fight for the laws of the Most High and die. Right? Go with him. No, you stay. He's going to go. Read.
2 Maccabees chapter 7 verse 22.
Right?
I cannot tell how ye came into my womb.
So think about it. She wasn't sitting there like, I made you. You know how the typical Israelite women, I brought you into this world. I could bring you out. I made you. You my baby. What is she doing though? When she said, I cannot tell how you were made in my womb. But she's not taking the credit, but who is she giving the credit to? Well, she knows that it's the Most High. Watch. Read.
For I neither gave you birth nor life.
Breath.
For I neither gave you breath nor life.
Go ahead.
Neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you.
Right. I didn't give you breath or life. Neither did I form your members, your limbs, your arms, your feet. Read on. Verse 23.
Verse 23. But doubtless the creator of the world who formed the generation of man.
Wait, no, the gods of Egypt.
The creator of the world who formed the generation of man.
Go ahead.
And found out the beginning of all things.
Read.
Will also of his own mercy.
Come on.
Give you breath and life again.
Again. So what's she saying there? I didn't do it, but I know who did. Even though she's saying, I don't know how you were created, because that's what she's saying. I might not get the process of creation, but I know who created. I might not understand how you were formed, but I know who did it. And it wasn't no Egyptian god or goddess. It wasn't no Nile River. It wasn't no frog woman. See, remember, this is years, hundreds of years after the Egyptians. And look at how some of our people still thought righteously towards the Most High, giving him that credit. Remember, these 7 sons died in front of their mom, getting dismembered, tongues cut out, limbs cut off. Fire so hot it burnt up the dudes that was preparing the fire. Remember that? So that fire was jumping so high they got burnt up. So remember, this is how our mind always has to be positioned. You may not know the inner workings of everything, but you better give the credit to who's working those things. You better give the credit to the Most High. That's because you can't see it. You better still believe it. Right? You better still believe it. You better still believe. Right? Go to Wisdom of Solomon real quick. Let me slide this one in. Quick little slide.
You know,
slide
like
piece.
that. Like how you saying you still believe. I was showing my mom something. In the VR set, you know, you put the VR headset on that I got,
Right?
and like you're in this whole nother world. You gonna turn your head, look around, walk around.
Right?
But
Better believe that there's a wall right there.
better believe there's a wall. Better believe that there's someone there with you.
Right.
Like I'm like, yeah, you don't see me, but guess what? I'm here.
Right. Right.
But you see all this other tropical oasis, but I'm here with you, even though you don't see me. And that's why I was saying like how the Most High and the angels are. They're always here with us. They see us. But just because we got the VR goggles on, don't mean that they're not here.
Right. Go to Wisdom of Solomon 13:1. Read that.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 13, verse 1.
I mean, I've been quoting it. Go ahead. And I'll probably come back to this a few times. Go ahead.
Surely, vain are all men by nature,
Right?
who are ignorant of the Most High.
Yeah. And how do we show our ignorance? Go ahead.
And cannot out of the good things that are seen know him that is.
That's how ignorant we are. We can't even see the Most High and the things that we can see. You try to search for the things you can't see to find God, and He's like, wait a minute. Why you gotta look for the invisible things?
Right.
Just look next to you. He's a God. He's a God. We're all gods. We're all God's creation. All you gotta do is look at the person next to you and know that the Most High is. That He's real. That's all it takes, is to just turn your head. You ain't gotta go all the way into some weird science and all the way to the moon. I gotta go into outer space to find God. Really? Because He ain't there. He ain't there. You ain't gonna find nothing. He's not on the moon. He's not in the sun. He is the sun. He is the moon. He is. Right? The thing that you're looking for, you don't have to travel too far to find it. But our vanity and our ignorance is what shows forth. Go ahead.
Neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the work master.
See, you ain't got to go to the moon to see. Like the moon is a beautiful thing. Bro, I dropped the kids off this morning to school. It's early. It's 7 a.m. I dropped them off. I hop out the car. I walk to the backyard, and I walk through my backyard and I look up and I'm like, dang. And the moon is just, pow, right there. Remember, it's daytime, 7 a.m. The sun is already up. So the sun was up on this side, bright as you know what, and the moon was over here, bright as you know what. And I was like, dang, it's dope to just see the moon in the daytime just still lit, but just there. And then what happens? The higher the sun gets, it's almost like the moon becomes translucent.
Yeah.
Like you can see through the other side of it. Right? But that's the beauty of the things that we see. And it's like, man, only the Most High can create that. Only the Most High can do these things. I don't got to go all the way to the moon to get it. But I give credit. But then I don't have to worship the moon either. See, and that's the problem. Go ahead.
But deemed either fire or wind.
Right? Because best believe, the Egyptians got a god for fire. They got a god for wind. They got a god for water, earth. Right? They got the Captain Planet of gods. Our powers combined, they still can't save us.
Right.
Right? Go ahead.
Or the swift air.
Y'all remember Captain Planet? Earth, wind, water, fire, heart.
Is that where you like?
With our powers combined, I am Captain Planet. And he comes out looking weird.
That's not Captain.
Remember Don Cheadle made the little parody? Oh, you gotta watch that.
Pour
Right?
dirt on him, that's his kryptonite.
Yeah, wait, pour what?
If you pour dirt on him, that's his kryptonite.
Oh my God. You can combine all your gods, bro. And guess what? The Most High is their kryptonite. Your belief in them is the kryptonite. Because guess what? When it's time for them to save you, they can. Go ahead.
Or the circle of stars.
Right? So worshiping stars, sun, moon. Read.
Or the violent water.
Right?
Or the lights of heaven.
Go ahead.
To be the gods which govern the world.
See that? We look at the beautiful things that are created as the governors of the world. But what about what created them? See, the Egyptians was missing something, man. You didn't give the credit to who created the Nile? Who created the frogs? You gave credit to the damn slimy-ass frogs? Ugh. Come on, man. Read on.
With those beauty,
Yeah.
with whose beauty, if they being delighted, took them to be gods, let them know how much better the Most High of them is.
Right?
For the first author of beauty hath created them.
Go ahead.
But if they were astonished at their power and virtue, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them.
I mean, bro, the sun is hot. The sun is literally scorching the earth and sucking out the moisture out the atmosphere. Imagine what Yahweh Shai is going to do when he comes. If you hot now, imagine what Christ could do. Imagine the flame thrower that he's going to be issuing out. Where ain't no AC, ain't no, what they call them? They got the AC, the air conditioned tents, right? They got this, oh, you go to the school and get some AC and some water.
Cool space.
Cool, yeah, the cool down spaces. Ain't none of that when Christ comes. When he wants to turn up the heat on you, ain't no water or, the fan that blows the mist. You just sitting there, ain't none of that. If the sun is doing what it's doing and it was a creation, imagine what the Creator can do. If the angels are doing what they're doing on this earth and they were created, imagine the Creator of them. And that's what we got to take into account. Every time I go over this thing, man, and I look at this class, I'm just like, dang, dude, were the Egyptians that gone? Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Because the sad part is, a lot of this belief, they still believe. They still believe in the Nile God. They just call it something different. But they still, the Nile still does what it does every year, which is flood over. Not as abundantly, right? Because the Most High is chastising the water. But they've been doing this for thousands of years. And they still believed, even though the Most High shut that down. Right? So drop that, go to Psalm 7, go back to Psalm 78. Psalm 78:44.
Psalms chapter 78, verse 44.
Right?
And had turned their rivers into blood.
Right, so we know that was the first plague. He turned their rivers into blood, read.
And their floods.
Right?
That they could not drink.
Right, did we already read this?
Yes. Verse 45.
Read on. No, read on. 44 and 45, yeah.
He sent diverse sorts of flies among them,
Right?
which devoured them,
Read.
and frogs, which destroyed them.
But let's be real. What are frogs looking for? Flies. But where did the flies come from? Remember all the dead animals in the water?
Yeah.
So when you look at it, even though the Most High stayed one plague, you still have to deal with the residual cleanup of that plague. How did they get all that death out the water? You have to wait it out. You have to let that stuff flow downstream. Right? Egypt's a big country. So even though the plague is over, the water turns back, you still got to deal with all the dead fish that just sit in the water and float to the top and do what to the water? Contaminate the water. And then what happens? Well, we can't get all the fish out and all the dead animals out. They bring flies and maggots. Now the water is fly-filled. Pestilence. You can only imagine. We only get like the full, we only get like this is the plague, it was stopped. But if you look at the residual of dead animals in water, what happens? That water, you can't drink that water for a while. Right? You can't use that water for anything. You can't feed that to your animals.
Yeah.
You can't drink it. Ain't no Berkeys and water filters. Right? So how they filtering that water? Well, they got to wait for that water to issue downstream and filter itself. Y'all see that? So frogs, flies destroyed them. So basically we're going to go into the next plague, not tonight, but we're going to be at plague number 3, which I'm sure y'all know what that is, but we'll talk about that on the next go around. Right? So so y'all kind of see like the mode of the class, hit y'all with the scriptures, jump into the books to see what the Egyptians take on their gods are, and then we go from there. All All right, so any questions on that at all? Water turned the blood into a multitude of frogs. All right, I mean, yeah, we'll probably just continue it next Wednesday or not. I got a few classes on Egypt that I want to drop, so yeah. All right. Well, we thank everybody for joining us. Remember, yeah, we keep saying we're gonna do it, and we don't do it. We gotta do it tomorrow. We gotta get the head count we gotta get the head count that's leaving for here to go to the summit. Remember to get your garment money in, please. Brother's been doing it. Stay on top of it. We got the feast on the 26th. And then we got 2 feasts next month. Day of Atonement, Tabernacles. Day of Atonement, Tabernacles. Just a heads up, we may not be doing the San Antonio thing we did last year. There was a little bit of a mix-up with the location. All right, so we're gonna try to link up with them at least one day. We're gonna try, but more than likely we're gonna be down here, kind of doing it old school.
In your backyard.
Right, or we can just all go to my backyard with the frogs. Yeah, we can go back there with the frogs. I'm finding all type of interesting bugs in my backyard, bless. I definitely got some brown recluses back there. Yeah, they be creeping through the grass, the jumping spiders. Bro, I'm finding like neon green caterpillars. Dope. They eat my tomato plants. Yeah, so we'll give more information on that, the other feast. But for now, we'll be doing Memorial of Blowing of the Trumpets on the 26th, which is a Monday coming, a week and a half from now?
I know we can do it like we're out backyard. This backyard twice size yours.
Yeah, twice the bugs. All right, so